Her name doesn't matter. Let's just call her Maya. 29 years old, a decent job, a decent apartment, the kind of life that looks completely fine from the outside. And one Tuesday night, she opens her banking app to check something small and freezes. $41. That's what's left, 5 days before payday. She makes good money. She knows she makes good money. And yet, here she is, doing math in her head, trying to figure out if she can afford groceries this week. She's not reckless. She's not bad with money. She's just never actually looked at where it goes. And in that one frozen moment, staring at a number that doesn't match the life she thought she was living, she becomes one of millions of people living the exact same quiet crisis at the exact same time, in almost total silence. This is not a story about a market crash. Nobody lost a fortune overnight. There's no dramatic headline here. This is something smaller and in some ways scarier, because it's happening inside ordinary lives. Right now, completely invisible from the outside. It's happening to the person earning $30,000 a year, and it's happening just as often to the person earning $300,000. Because somewhere along the way, we all learned the causes of wars fought 2 centuries ago, and almost none of us were ever taught what compound interest quietly does to a credit card balance left unpaid for 2 years. That gap between what we're taught and what we actually need to survive is exactly where stories like Maya's begin. So Maya does something most people never do. She sits down on a Sunday night with 2 months of bank statements open in front of her, and she just looks, not to judge herself, just to see. And what she finds is not one reckless purchase, not one obvious villain she can point to and fix. It's dozens of small, quiet decisions. A coffee here, a delivery fee there, a forgotten subscription still charging her every month for an app she deleted in February. None of them, on their own, feel like a crisis. But laid out together for the first time, they tell a story she never realized she was writing about herself. And this is the turning point. Not just for Maya, but for almost everyone whose financial life eventually changes for the better. It's the moment someone stops asking, "How do I make more money?" and starts asking a much harder, much more honest question. Where is the money I already have actually going? Because here's the part the finance industry doesn't put in bold letters. Earning more rarely fixes this on its own. Give someone a raise, and in study after study, their spending quietly rises to meet it, almost without them noticing. Not because they're careless, because without a plan, money finds a way to vanish, no matter how much of it there is. So, what does a plan actually look like? A real one, not the kind that demands perfection and collapses in 9 days. It comes down to 3 questions, and only 3. What do I need to survive? What do I want, just for the joy of it? And what am I building quietly, for the person I'll be in 10 years? Needs, wants, and growth. That's the entire skeleton holding up nearly every financial turnaround we could find, Maya's included. When she finally splits her spending into those 3 buckets, the first surprise hits immediately. Her needs take up more than she wants to admit. Rent alone eats a bigger slice than any budgeting article ever warned her about. And that's not her failing at adulthood. That's the actual cost of living in a modern American city right now. But it's the second bucket, the wants, where the real gut punch lands. Because when she adds it all up, the coffee, the food delivery, the forgotten subscriptions, it comes to almost $400 a month she genuinely cannot account for. Not $400 of guilt, $400 of pure, sudden clarity. And clarity, it turns out, motivates people in a way guilt never could. Then comes the third question, the one about the future. And this is where Maya, like almost everyone, wants to freeze completely. Retirement at 29 feels like science fiction. An emergency fund for a disaster that hasn't happened yet feels unnecessary right up until 3 months later, when her car breaks down on a Tuesday morning, and it very suddenly doesn't. So she doesn't try to save for some distant, blurry future all at once. She starts absurdly small, a single $1,000, just enough to catch a flat tire or a broken phone before it turns into another maxed-out credit card. And the moment that cushion exists, something in her shifts. She sleeps differently. She checks her banking app without flinching. From there, the story quietly turns toward her debt, not with shame, but with strategy. Debt isn't a moral failure. It's just expensive, in a cold, mathematical sense, growing in the dark whether she's watching it or not. So she does what worked, again and again, in every real turnaround story we found. She stops spreading herself thin across everything at once, and instead throws every spare dollar at the debt, charging her the most interest. Like water, finding the fastest path downhill. Only once that's handled does she start thinking seriously about the far future. A retirement account, a small automatic investment each month, the slow, almost boring work of letting time do what time does best. And here's the part nobody puts in a movie trailer. There's no dramatic before and after moment, no fireworks, just consistency, quietly compounding in the background of an otherwise completely ordinary life. But maybe that's the real twist in Maya's story, and in the story of everyone like her. It was never about becoming a different person, or never spending on anything fun again. It was about attention, about the difference between money that slips through your hands unnoticed and money that is finally deliberately being watched. Because financial peace was never really about the size of the number in the account. It's about no longer being afraid to look at it. It's the absence of surprise, nothing more and nothing less. And that, more than any raise or windfall or lucky break, is the one thing that's actually available to almost anyone willing to sit down on some ordinary Sunday night and finally just look.